I would be enraged if someone sold some of my vintage collections, okay? And so is this person, apparently. My mother-in-law sold my vintage collection and I'm pressing charges. Ooh, we got a lawsuit on our hands. Oh my gosh. Okay, this story just took the darkest of turns here. This story came February 5th, 2024. This is somewhat urgent. My mother-in-law is insanely entitled and my wife's enabling her has made our marriage very hard at times. Mother-in-law has come to us for money many times because she keeps spending herself into a hole because she's a hoarder. Recently, she came to us wanting me specifically to buy her a new smartphone, and she threw a massive fit when I refused. I had quite a collection of vintage skeleton keys, and I mean good ones, like ones to particular hotels, brass railroad keys, etc. That's actually so cool.
That is so fetch.
My collection as a whole should have easily been worth $2,000 to $3,000. I kept them in a locked display cabinet. But yesterday, I came home to find my entire collection gone. The cabinet had been forced open. I checked the CCTV for the living room and I saw my mother-in-law force open the cabinet with a small crowbar. I called my mother-in-law and demanded that she return my entire collection. She nonchalantly told me she sold the entire collection at pawn already and used the money for her new phone. Then said it was my fault and she had to do it because I wouldn't give her the money. No! Oh, I am pressing charges so fast. Are you asking us, are you the a-hole?
What do you mean?
Quit typing this up and go press charges. My wife was seemingly on my side until I said I was going to call the police. Now she's begging me to just drop it and even suggested that I start a new collection. A lot of those keys are irreplaceable and I spent 10 years building that collection. My mother-in-law has been troubled in the past, but this is the first time I know that she is stolen from us. I need help. Would I be the a-hole if I went to the police? I kind of forgot that it was mother-in-law, meaning your partner's like the family aspect. I was like, yeah, that adds a layer for sure, because that is your mother-in-law and it's your partner's mother. I don't think you can just forget about that though. I feel like, can we go buy them back? Can we get them back from the pawn? Like, this isn't right and it should not be just forgotten about. Is there a way to work it out without the police involved?
It could happen.
Edit. It hasn't even been an hour and this has been made pretty clear to me. I'm calling the police. My wife is at work right now, so she won't be here to object. I texted my mother-in-law and I got her to admit everything she did, which pawn shop she went to, and how much she sold the collection for. So now I have plenty of evidence. Then we got a mini update the next day. This is just a small update. I'm taking some time off work, locking down my credit, and I've got an appointment for a consultation with a divorce lawyer tomorrow. No, what happened? Oh no. I'm honestly surprised I got one this soon. No, I don't have the keys back yet. Police still have them, but they will be returned soon. Oh, okay, so the police went and got them from the pawn shop. I think they have to go through it all and compare it to the documentation I provided. But my wife and I had a big fight because she took the money to bail out her mother and pay off the pawn shop from our joint bank account. I'm removing any money I have in that account tomorrow. My wife can have what's left and all that was hers. I haven't been sleeping well and the stress is giving me migraines, but I am determined to power through this. This is crazy. I understand it's her mom, but how do you possibly support her doing that to your partner, but you as well? She stole something from your home.
Right to jail, right away.
Am I the only one having this reaction? We got an update 3 days later saying, I got my skeleton key collection back from the police. I will post some pictures of them. And we have the pictures. Okay, I do want to see these keys. I'm very intrigued. There was a short period of my life when I was younger where I collected like cool metal spoons from places I went. I think the collection had like 5. I think I still have them. Oh, wow. They really do look like the skeleton keys in creepy hotels and horror movies. That is so cool. How did you get these? I really want to know. Oh, wow. Oh, I see a little like engraving of a company name or something. Not sure what that is. The details. Wow. Ooh, those ones are cool. Girl, you got a lot of keys. Very cool. Very cool. I've actually never seen a collection of skeleton keys. Also, to think that those keys are more than just the key itself. Like, it comes with like a piece of history or story behind it. You've spent money on it, and it's also taken you over 10 years. I wouldn't want to lose that either. All right, the next update came the next day. I want to answer some quick questions before the new update. Number 1, how did mother-in-law get into the house? My wife gave her a key when we moved in. That's how. Super easy. Just walked in the door with a key. Number 2, why did I have CCTV cameras in the living room? Really? Wouldn't you do that if you had something valuable on display right there? Fair point. Number 3, is mother-in-law on substances? No idea. She's always been crazy. Number 4, did mother-in-law steal from us before? Not that I have been able to tell, and I have checked everything that I could think of. Number 5, what kind of phone did she get? We really need to know the details. Was it an iPhone or a Samsung? Is she team Apple? Not a clue, but probably one of the cheaper smartphones with the amount of money she got selling my stuff, unless she's on a payment plan. Number 6, did my wife use the money to placate her mother before? Yes, she did. We primarily have separate accounts, but we do have a joint account that we pay bills with. So it is not used for savings. In 2 years of marriage, I would say it happened roughly 5 times. Every time my wife took money from the joint account for her mother, she always replaced it the next payday. Though in hindsight, I think she only did so because she knew that I would never let it go, because she would always have an attitude with me for a few days after. I was in a bad marriage fog before, but this whole situation has snapped me right out of it. Number 7, will I lock down my credit? I already have, though I'm not sure my wife or her mother would be stupid to do something like that after my mother-in-law was recently arrested. You never know. Now back to what happened that day. The police did come and take my statement a bit over an hour after I called the non-emergency line. I had video footage and the documentation of my collection ready, and there were some texts that I went out of my way to get from mother-in-law to bait her into a confession. I wanted as much possible evidence so that she couldn't lie to the police. When I texted her demanding that she get my collection back, she actually LOL'd me and told me not to take a chance, and even boasted that she thought I was a pathetic son-in-law and my key collection was tacky anyways. I told her at least tell me what pawn shop she sold the keys to so I could go buy them back and how much they paid for them. And the dimwit admitted it all the way through with glee in text message. I had everything I needed for the police before they even showed up. The cops took the whole matter more seriously than I even thought. I was worried that they would call it a civil matter since the thief was my mother-in-law and she had a key to the house, but they arrested her before long, and the police went to the pawn shop before it closed to retrieve my collection. I got it back from the police after a couple of days, and for the moment, I have put the collection in a safe, secure place that no one can get to. The pawn shop pretty much gave up the entire key collection to the police right away, like it was a hot bag of potatoes. Yeah, I guess you don't question that when the police is like, I'm gonna need those keys back, as long as they get their money. Wait, yeah, you said you got your money back. Though I scrutinized every important key brought back, as far as I can tell, it is all there. That was a huge sigh of relief. I took time off work and barely slept for 2 days because of this ordeal. Also, the cabinet my mother-in-law broke into is pretty much a loss since she mangled the lock and pried the doors open. Thankfully, it wasn't antique and just something that I got used for $50. So I'm just going to take it to the dump sooner or later. From her text before, I found out mother-in-law sold the whole collection to a pawn shop for a whopping total of $300. For a collection of hundreds of antique keys valued at $2 to $3 grand as a total, that low number felt like a punch in the gut to me. Likely the pawnbroker knew how valuable the collection could be as a whole. I mean, it's not like hitting a jackpot or anything, but money is still money, especially when a dumb little lady walks in with a box of goodies. Anyone else hear Mr. Krabs laughing? No, because I really didn't watch SpongeBob. Anyway, the cost of repayment to the shop was supposed to be on mother-in-law, but my wife paid them back out of our joint account instead. From what the shop owner said, mother-in-law told them the key collection belonged to her deceased husband, and she was sick the whole collection just sitting in storage, so they believed her. But just to be clear, she's not a widow. Her husband divorced her and left the state around 15 years ago. My mother-in-law lives off Social Security and food stamps. She also holds garage sales every few months. She often demanded our soda and beer cans so she could go deposit money recycling them. My mother-in-law doesn't drive. She just gets around on an electric scooter that tows a bicycle trailer. She lives in a long paid-off house, and she would not be having money troubles if she wasn't overspending every month. And she always counts on my wife to pick up the slack when she comes short. My wife and I got into a huge fight when she got home because I had her mother arrested. But I told her I am done with her enabling her toxic mother. I said I was changing the locks ASAP and banning her mother from the house. And I also said that either we got marriage counseling or I would be inquiring about my options for separation from an attorney. I thought my wife would beg me not to do that, but instead she just called me horrible, packed a suitcase, and walked out to go to a hotel. I just sat on the couch and I let her go. She repeatedly looked like she was waiting for me to ask her to stay, but I didn't. In the morning, she texted me saying that she'd be bailing her mother out and wanted me to transfer her the money to pay for it since I was the one who got her mother arrested. Your mom actually got herself arrested, but sure.
Snap, David.
When I said no, all I got back was a sarcastic wow, and that was it. Not too long later, I had a gut feeling and checked the balance on the shared bank account, and my wife had taken out a lot of money. I wasn't sure if that was all needed for the bail, so I called the pawn shop later. The owner confirmed my wife had come in and paid him back the $300 that he had paid for my mother's keys. Her keys. He was also quite angry and said he didn't want any of us in his shop ever again. Fair. I understood his anger and weirdly enough had a fairly long talk with this guy, and he understood that I am not part of the crazy. I tried to call and text my wife for hours, but she didn't answer. That evening, I managed to find her. I knew which motel she would likely go to, and I was right. It was both cheap and not too far away. I found her car and then figured out what room she was in. She looked positively shocked to see me when she opened the door. I confronted her about the money that she used from our shared account. She basically said that since I refused to pay for her mother's bail after I was the one who had her arrested, she got the money from me another way. Then smugly stated that she wasn't paying that money back into the shared account this time and told me that's the karma I get before shutting the door in my face. Then said through the door she would call the cops on me if I didn't leave. The smug look she had given me reminded me of nasty teenage girls when they get their way, and it really ticked me off. I already knew my marriage was pretty much over, but that night it really sank in. I had a long sit down with some old video games and a cola to think about my future. The house is rented, so I'm not renewing my half of the lease, and will soon be apartment hunting. The last month of the lease is March, but I may leave sooner depending on how soon I can find an apartment. We have no kids yet, thank God, so that's another thing I currently have in my favor. The next day, I changed the locks on the house and removed all of my money from the joint bank account, and I stopped all automated payments to and from it. I made sure to take only the amount of money that I had put into the account. There was still more than enough in it for me to break even and still leave the minimum required balance on the account. Either way, the cost of mother-in-law's bail and paying back the pawn shop was now entirely out of my wife's pocket now. And I don't think she has noticed yet. But it shouldn't be long. Well, that'll be fun. I've been to a couple different divorce lawyers already, and I picked the second one since the first seemed like they were just there for a paycheck. I'll have the divorce papers served soon. I loved my wife, but it's clear she didn't love me, so I can't stay with her anymore. She can have her thieving hoarder mommy all to herself now. We both have very comparable incomes, so I will be pushing for a clean split divorce. This woman didn't deserve me and I fell for her act. She didn't want a husband, she wanted an insurance plan. I will pursue any charges still possible against her mother, and I'll update again when more happens. But to be clear on this, I won't be changing my mind. My soon-to-be ex-wife can beg and love bomb me all she wants, if she even bothers to. I've never been her number one, and I'm not going to settle for being number two in my own marriage. It is over. The story doesn't stop there, so we're gonna see if it really is over or not. But first, I need a sip of water, and so do you. Cheers. I just think it is such a shame that a marriage would have to end over this. That feels like such a shame. But who really knows what went on in that marriage, you know? There could have been more problems going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, and this was just the tipping point. But it does seem like this was the one reason, so very wild. Slightly freaking out right now because as of today, you guys know I film ahead, I just hit 199,000 subscribers. We are so close to 200,000. Maybe by the time you see us, I would hit it. Maybe not though. So I just want you to know that I'm freaking out over here with tons of gratitude, but just like a little overwhelmed, you know, like, the next 100K. It's so exciting. Next update, 4 months later, we are now at June 10th, 2024. I've decided I will no longer be referring to my soon-to-be ex-wife as wife. Even that feels wrong now, so I will just be saying soon-to-be ex-wife. I'm just gonna say ex-wife. If it's soon-to-be, it's ex-wife to me while I'm reading. A few months ago, I anonymously reported my mother-in-law as a serious hoarder. Someone here commented that I should report my mother-in-law's hoarding to a fire marshal. At the time, I decided to do it because I was angry and I wanted to get back at her for stealing my collection and making my life hell. My mother-in-law had been building a hoard in her house since my wife was a teenager. The house was filled nearly to the brim with rotten garbage and a rodent infested. I've actually seen rats there. I made a call to the city from a number I Googled. At first, I thought nothing came of it because weeks went by, but I guess someone looked into it because mother-in-law's house was given an inspection. The house was found to be in even worse shape than I thought. It was not only a serious fire hazard itself and everything around it and rodent infested, there were also some exposed electrical wires, a roof leak that's gone unfixed for years that caused bad rot damage, and black mold. The outside of the house didn't look that bad, and it was in a neighborhood full of old houses that just looked similar, which is likely why no one reported it until I did. My ex-wife figured out it was me who reported her mother with the timing and all. She came home and ranted to me about all the things her mother told her the inspector found and how her mother was likely to lose her house now. Oh, blessing in disguise though. She's living in black mold with rodents and a roof leak and garbage. Oh man. You know, I used to watch that show Hoarders, and when I was younger, I was like, oh my God, that's so like lazy and gross. And then most times it's because they have some kind of mental health disorder or more going on in their personal life behind the scenes. And that's what leads to the hoarding. All they've mentioned is that she has a spending problem. She works and has a spending problem. I feel like there's gotta be, if you're living in that kind of environment, there's gotta be more going on. But it was only a matter of time before something like this happened. If I didn't report her mother, someone else eventually would have. My ex-wife screamed at me that I was a horrible, deceitful person. I asked her if she wanted to be the pot or kettle, then reminded her of all the reasons why we were separating. I ended up losing my cool and I ranted at her, saying that her enabling her mother caused this. Her acting like her mother stealing my irreplaceable skeleton key collection that I've spent a decade building wasn't important caused this. And her selfish decision-making and bratty behavior ever since we got married caused this. Couples are supposed to make decisions together. Instead, she just kept making them for us both without even asking my input. So I made a decision of my own for once and I reported her mother's hoarding, which needed to be reported anyway because it's a danger to her and the people around her. I told my ex I was long sick of just sucking it up all the time and just letting things pass while they acted like I was the bad guy and walked all over me. Her mother would get nothing from me, and maybe she wouldn't be as crazy once she's no longer living in a house filled with fumes of rotten garbage, rodent poo, and black frickin' mold. My ex-wife just walked away sniffing and cursing at me. Yeah, I know I went too far. I'd been reduced to being just as petty as her. I made that call because I was angry. Yeah, I mean, I figured that's where it came from. But I had no choice but to stand by that decision after I had done it. Mother-in-law ended up demanding my ex foot the cost of cleaning and restoring the house, but she couldn't afford it. From what I heard, my mother-in-law went off on her with her demands and told her to get the money any way she could, even demanding that I pay for it since I was the one who reported the house. She even said that she, my ex-wife, should sue me. But my ex told her that it wouldn't work. The house was in exceedingly poor shape. Rotten garbage, exposed wires, roof leaks, black mold. No one should be living in that. When my ex tried to tell her mother that she couldn't afford to pay for the house to be clean and renovated, her mother actually attacked her like a wild animal. She hit and scratched her multiple times and tried to pull her hair out. That's when it happened. Oh my gosh. My mother-in-law had a heart attack on the spot. Okay, this story just took the darkest of turns here. Going ape on her daughter must have triggered it. My ex called 911 while looking for aspirin in the house. By the time help had arrived, her mother had expired. Listen, I know she stole the keys and that was very wrong, but I don't wish this upon her. I don't wish this upon anybody. That is so sad. Oh my gosh, I'm like stunned right now. I did not see that happening. My ex came home with a police officer in tow for some reason and was absolutely mad, screaming at me about what just happened to her mother. She said that it was all my fault, and in her ranting, I found out her mother had a weak heart. It's the real reason why she was on disability. Okay, you didn't say this. I thought mom was working if she was spending, but you're saying she was on disability because she had heart issues. Oh my gosh, and then she's been living in mold this whole time. The officer had to separate my ex-wife from me, and she fell onto the couch sobbing. I hated my mother-in-law with a passion, but I was not trying to end her life, and I still feel great guilt over this. From what the police officer said and from what my ex said, I pieced the story together and I later typed it out. But I just couldn't bring myself to post it. I was still racked with guilt and just had to take a serious break from Reddit. That evening, when I found out my mother-in-law had passed away, my ex managed to calm down long enough to speak to a police officer more clearly about what happened. But she also kept shifting between blaming herself and blaming me. I asked her from across the room why I was never told about her mother's heart condition. There it is. Okay, you didn't even know. And she yelled it was none of my damn business. But it explains why mother-in-law used to dramatically put her hand on her chest and cry so many times when she wasn't getting her way. My ex ended up going crazy in the bathroom that she'd been using since we were sleeping separately. She asked the police officer for a moment to herself, then just went crazy after shutting the door. She came out a few minutes later looking angry but calm. Then she told me that I was cleaning that mess up. She packed her bags again and left the house for the motel once more and told me she would not be coming back unless it was to get more stuff. I was so guilt-ridden that I was hardly able to function for days back then, and I had to take leave from work because of stress migraines. I basically spent 3 days on the couch hopping up on meds. But after that, I got my ass in gear again. My friends all tell me it was not my fault. I didn't know, and my mother-in-law was crazy. Either way, what's done is done, and I have to live with it. Sadly, there's more that happened, which I'll be telling in another post. Edit. I came back to find over 200 comments in my inbox. I'm going to respond to some questions from here rather than answering all of you. Did I move into that apartment in March? Yes, I did. The events of this post happened before that move. Next question, is this post fake? I wish it was, but this is the crap that I've dealt with. Am I in therapy? Yes, I am. Only for about a month now, but it is helping. Very few were against me in the comments, but I don't blame those that were. Yeah, my mother-in-law's heart condition was unknown to me, and I set things in motion by calling the fire marshal. And I understand hoarding is a bad mental disorder. That is what I learned. I am guilty for that. I'm not made of stone, but at the same time, my mother-in-law was a narcissist who loved walking all over me and anyone else, even her own daughter. Yes, I understand it's a scary thing to lose one's home, but if you don't treat your home as a home and let it turn into a moldy and infested den, then you've let your home down. She was only able to live in one room because the rest of the house was so bad. And about a week ago, I drove by the property and I saw her house had been torn down. There's nothing but an empty lot now. Apparently, it was deemed as an unsalvageable biohazard. And that's the end. That's it. He did not post about what else happened in another post after that. What a turn. I really want to know, I feel like the first half of the story, would you guys have pressed charges or was that wrong? And then the second part of the story, did he make a mistake by calling the fire marshal? Was he petty and wrong to do that? Do you agree? Holy moly. That was a lot. Let me know your thoughts. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. Bye.